Hey, welcome to my channel. My name is Jessie and today I'm starting my June Buzzword Challenge vlog. This month's buzzword was all, and I did have, once again, a little bit of trouble picking out the book I was going to read. So I think it just comes down to I'm picky and I'm going to have trouble every month. I had, once again, wanted to read a book off of my physical TBR, but I have already read all the books with all in the title on my bookshelves. So I ended up going to Libby and just typing in the word all to see what I could find. I had tried looking it up on Goodreads and I just wasn't happy with really any of the suggestions that had been listed at the time that I looked. I just ended up going to Libby and typing in all and seeing what I found. And I came across All of Us Villains by Amanda Foody and Christine Lynn Herman. The main thing I know about this book is that the Hunger Games is described as the Hunger Games with magic, and that 7 families have to submit a champion for this game, and whoever wins, whoever wins, that family will have the highest access to magic or a magical artifact or something. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm interested. And also, it's part of a series, and it came out last year. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen and see what it's like. I've seen the title and cover floating around, but I hadn't actually seen any reviews or looked into any reviews or known what it was about. So I'm interested to see how this goes. And I did download the ebook and audiobook because both were available on my Libby. But also, I'm not quite sure when I'm going to get started reading because today is Monday, June 1st. I just filmed my May reading wrap up, and it is also the second day of summer 1. So I have a little bit I need to do today. This past weekend was Memorial Day weekend and I should have been preparing for school, but I had a lazy, relaxing, and fun weekend with Rowan and Chris. And so now I am stuck scrambling to get some stuff done. I need to finish setting up my June bullet journal. I have most of my spreads done, I'm doing blueberries because there is a blueberry festival in my area coming up soon. And so I did blueberries for the cover. I also did my calendar. You might see pencil marks on here. I haven't gone back and erased. But one thing I really need to do, because all the modules for summer 1 are varying lengths. I think the first one is only 4 days. And so I need to go through and just mark off with, I think, just different colored highlighters on the bottom of each day, the module that I'm on. That way I kind of know what's going on, how long I have for everything. Because each module I have, it looks like, I think there's 5 modules, and for each module I have to do 1 discussion and 1 reflection, and I think all the reflections are 2 to 3 pages. And according to discussion 1, it looks like all the discussions are going to be 250 to 500 words, which is probably about a page. So it's not too bad, but combine that with all the readings and stuff I need to do on top of that, I need to get on it. And also I have a big paper, or I say big, I have a 3 to 5 page paper due on a movie we have to watch at the end of the summer 1, which will be the end of June. But I'm taking Introduction to Gifted and Talented Students, and so I'm really interested and excited to read this book and kind of to see what would be expected or what I might encounter if I ever were to teach gifted or talented or to work with any gifted and talented kids, because I'm sure even if I don't directly teach, a group of gifted and talented students, I will likely have some gifted and talented students in some classes, and to make sure I am engaging them to the best of their abilities and to the best of my ability and everything. So I'm interested to see how this all goes. I want to get a lot of reading done, but I may not be able to. I woke up kind of early today. So I read about 20% last night whenever I was out last night, and then whenever I got home. So I read, I started the book at the gym. I read the first chapter while I watched the treadmill, and then I listened to the audiobook the rest of the time I was at the gym. And then I came home. I finished most of my readings for the module that's due on Friday. And like I said, I finished most of the readings, but I got to the last 10 pages of chapter 6. We had to read chapter 1 and chapter 6. And I kept having to go back and reread stuff, and I decided I'd call it for the night. And then I laid in bed and read a couple more chapters of All of Us Villains. And then I woke up early this morning. I did a little laundry. I finished my readings. I'm trying to write my discussion post, but I keep getting stuck because I know what I want to talk about. I'm just having trouble synthesizing information from the text because I don't know quite how to do it, or how I want to do it at least. But anyways, all that to say that I've been productive today, which is exciting because I feel like I have not had very many productive days lately. And I've also gotten some reading done, and I'm at the 1/3 mark of All of Us Villains, and so far I am having a really good time with the story. I'm really interested. I'm a little stressed, I'm a little worried because I am interested in all the characters, but based off how the book appears to be going, they're gonna die at some point maybe, but also at the same time they're all starting to have doubts. So this book kind of takes place in a fantasy world that might be on a similar timeline to ours, because they have a lot of, technology and stuff. And they have common magic, which is apparently just easy and common to find. But there's also, I think it's high magic, and that might not be quite the right name. I might be misremembering. And the high magic can only be contained within these 7 families in this town called Ilvernath. And every 20 years, so about once every generation, they have a tournament where they have a champion from each of the 7 families, and whoever, I guess, is winning at the end of 3 months, or whoever's the last one standing after they've murdered everyone else, that person's family will get the high magic for the next 20-ish years. And so far we've been introduced to 4 characters. 4 characters have POVs, and they're third-person POVs, but anytime you're in that POV, you're following that character and their experiences. And so far, they all are having their own issues. At least 2 of them, or one of them, Alistair, he's always known he was going to be his family's champion. He was pretty much born for it. He's mentally and emotionally, and probably likely physically emotionally tortured by his family in order to prepare him to be the champion, in order to prepare him to kill others or be killed. And he also, just now, at the time that I ended reading the book, he kind of found out what it is that gives his family the edge that they need. And the edge that he's needed, I think, is going to be something that isn't going to work out well for him, or not necessarily work out well for him, but it's definitely draining him mentally and emotionally what just happened. So I feel like that's gonna be like what pushes him over the edge to, like, maybe not necessarily get away from his family, but to maybe look into other alternative ways of living life after this tournament, or potentially finding a way to maybe even end having the tournament. I don't quite know how to say that, but basically I think something's going to change for Alistair. The next character that we were introduced to was Isabel, and I don't quite know what it is yet about her family, but no one really likes her family. So I know kind of what it is, because her family will just go and, collect magic from dead people after funerals. That, I know a lot of people in the town are disgusted by that. But I think there must be other stuff going on too for her family to be as despised as they are. But she was one of the first ones who was named a champion, and her being a champion actually surprised her. I'm not sure who was meant to be a champion in her family, but her dad kind of just pushed her into the role and won't let her out of it. And her mom and her dad are divorced, and her mom really does not want her to be in this role at all. Her mom doesn't want her to be a champion. Her mom is so afraid she's going to die, which probably is not great for Isabel's well-being going into this. Rowan's dumping out his Legos. But it's probably not great for her well-being going into this tournament. You need to have some level of confidence, I'm sure, going into something like this. But her dad also won't let her out, and there's just a lot going on for her, and she's definitely having a lot of doubts. And in her last POV chapter that I read, she kind of did something that's really going to mess up her chances at winning, and I don't really know what I can say what it is. But her chances of winning have definitely gone way down because of this little mistake she made while trying to give herself an edge. We've also met Gavin. His family has won exactly 0 tournaments in all the times that it has gone on. His family is actually so there's this book that recently was released, like about 11 months before the start of the book, where it kind of is a tell-all about the high magic and how it works, and this tournament that's been going on in secret for its entire existence up until now. And someone in his family released it, and he's not necessarily happy with it. And he's actually really frustrated because he knows his chances are 0. He can't get the same sponsorships that all these other kids are getting, because I think partly between, the tournament now being public, and also between the fact that certain people have always known about the competition just because of their lines of work as spell makers or curse makers and stuff like that. But he can't get any sponsorships because of who his family is, because he is seen as having no real chance at surviving. And he has essentially sold his soul to have a shot at surviving. So I'm interested to see where his story goes. He also definitely seems to be described as the weakest link so far in, of the 7 champions, who are called the Slaughter Champions. And then the final POV that we've met so far is Bryony. And Bryony has spent her whole life with the intent of being her family's champion. She has done everything she could to stand out and make sure her intentions and thoughts were pure. But ever since that book by Gavin's family was released, the government has been involved in the magic and investigating and meddling. And now, because of that meddling, she will not be her family's champion, and she is very upset about this because this is something she raised her whole life wanting to do. Alistair, I don't know if it's ever something he wanted versus not wanted to do, but it's always been something that he knew he would have to do no matter what. Whereas Bryony always knew she wanted to do it, and I think her family had wanted her to do it. Her family had seen her potential. But her family was just kind of complacent while the government interfered and picked someone else and actually skipped over her family's regular traditions of picking a champion. And so I'm actually really interested to see how the rest of this book goes. We have kind of met the other 3 champions, but they don't have POVs. And they definitely seem like they're going to come off as like the evil ones so far. Or like they have the most potential to be evil. But I guess technically we don't have a POV from Bryony's family champion, but you know, we have a POV from Bryony who had wanted to be the champion. So I'm interested to see what happens. I'm interested to see if maybe, you know, Bryony's going to switch some things up in order to still be a champion, or how this is going to work. And if maybe she's just meant to be the point of view on the outside who is going to change things from without. Because it's very obvious reading it that like these 4 characters don't necessarily like how things are, but they've also grown up just accepting how their roles that they would be playing at some point in their lives. And like even Gavin, he doesn't necessarily want to be the champion, but he knows that other people in his family who are at the age to compete can't compete for whatever reason. His sister has married outside the family. His little brother is his mother's favorite, and he doesn't want to, you know, put his little brother in harm's way. So all the characters have their own reasons and thoughts for changing things, except for Alistair so far. He kind of has the least reason for wanting to change things up until the last second of whenever I read his chapter. That kind of makes sense. I feel like I'm all over the place with that. But I'm interested to see how the rest of this book goes. I want all 4 of these characters to survive at this point in time. I want to see where their stories go. Apparently this is, I think, a duology, and the next book comes out in August. So I'm hoping I like this one. I'm hoping I'll like the next one if I read it. Anyways though, that is it for now, and I will update you once I've read the next third of All of Us Villains. Alright, so it has only really been a few hours since I last updated this particular video, and I'm having a great time with All of Us Villains. I had a lot of trouble putting it down, and I'm at the 2/3 mark, and I really considered just finishing it, but I decided not to since this was a mini vlog, and there's only really 3 updates for the book anyways whenever I do mini vlogs. And I didn't want to just do 2. But I'm having a great time with the book. But before I tell you about the book, I'm going to tell you about how productive I've been this afternoon. I managed to get Rowan to take a 2.5 hour nap in his big boy bed, which was really exciting. And after I was able to sneak out of his bed, I was able to get a little bit of stuff done myself. I was able to listen to the audiobook for a little bit. I did some homework. I finished drafting my reflection that's due tomorrow. So tomorrow I need to go through, I think I need to answer 1 question that I didn't feel like answering today, and then edit it and turn it in. And I need to respond to classmates who have posted. I just haven't felt like sitting down to think about that yet. And I started editing my May wrap up. So I'm really bad about not like just procrastinating on editing videos. It's just not my favorite part of this whole process. And so I tend to procrastinate on it. And so I'm trying to get better, especially with sit down videos, by sitting down and editing it as soon as possible. So far, the summer class hasn't been as stressful as I was afraid it would be. And typically the first week, especially like right when a class opens, it always feels incredibly stressful because you're just getting dumped with all this information. You get dumped with the syllabus, the course timeline, what materials you might need, what the professor's expectations are. And so it always feels more stressful than it really is probably. I am 2/3 of the way through the book and I'm loving it, like I said. At this point in the book, the characters are in the tournament grounds. The tournament has started and they have so far made it over a week without killing anybody yet. And so I think they're all kind of getting antsy because, you know, even if no one dies, they're all going to die at the end because the tournament requires death. But at this point in the book, I'm interested to see where the characters go. So I think the last time I spoke to you, I said that Alistair had something really pivotal happen that was probably going to change his entire perception of the competition, and it kind of has. He's also made an alliance with Isabel that I think is definitely playing into why he's kind of changed his mind about the competition. But that's definitely not the only thing. The thing that happens with his family is really important and really pivotal, I think. Isabel, on the other hand, has definitely bitten herself in the butt by accidentally sabotaging herself. She's having a lot of trouble in the competition, and that's the whole reason she even had to seek out Alistair in the first place, because they're the 2 most powerful according to themselves and most of the other POVs. In the end, there might be a face-off between the 2 of them, who knows? Although I do almost know, because I did skip to the end to see if we ever lose any POVs, because each chapter is titled as a POV, which could be a spoiler if you check out the audiobook or the ebook and notice that. So I'm hoping that things turn out the way I want, but we will see, because there is another book that comes out sometime this year. Alistair and Isabel have spent like this last week together though. They've kind of got to know each other, but not really, because they're trying to stay distant. They're also trying to stay on their strategies, but things are kind of getting a little messy and muddled there. And there's definitely like some flirting that's going on, but it really shouldn't be going on, just because, you know, their circumstances, right? Although I'm kind of rooting for it. And then Bryony and Galvin's POVs, I'm not as interested in, but I'm definitely more interested in Bryony's than Gavin's. So Bryony's is really interesting because the whole reason, or supposedly the whole reason she's in the competition is in order to change things. She's the one who wants to make change. And I say mostly because she did kind of trick her way into the competition, because she ended up not being her family's champion, but through a little bit of trickery and kind of a gross act. As in literally gross, like it was actually kind of gross what she had to do. She managed to get into the competition. And so she's definitely trying to form alliances, but no one really trusts her, especially because, you know, how did she get into the competition? Someone else from her family had already signed up and everything. So she's trying to, you know, prove her theory on how to change things, but she hasn't been able to get all the materials she's needed or enough people on her side. But she has managed to fall into a little alliance with 3 other people, one of which is her ex-boyfriend, and they had a big falling out about the competition whenever they broke up, kind of. And then one of the competitors, I don't remember his name, but he actually apparently really reminds her of the champion who would have been going in her place. Gavin, on the other hand, I'm trying not to dislike him because I feel like he's almost set up to be the one you dislike. And so I'm trying not to be unfair, but at the same time, I don't know, I just don't really like him. He is definitely the most disadvantaged. He comes in with the least information. He has not had any champions in his family before in the past. And so he's coming in without any family stories of how to survive and what to do and strategies that might work and strategies that might not work, because he doesn't have, you know, family who was won in the past. And he's also been desperate to find a way to survive. He just wants to live. And I mean, who can blame him? He's like 17, 18, maybe 16. And he's only in the competition because no one else in his family would or could go. And so he really just wants to survive. He wants to find a way to survive. And he's willing to do anything to do it. It's just something about Gavin rubs me wrong. And I think it's the desperation. And I feel bad because he is in a desperate situation. So how can I blame him? But at the same time, just something about him rubs me wrong. I'm not a fan. But I'm having a really good time with this book. They are currently all trying to collect these artifacts that have special abilities and will help them with the competition. Bryony especially needs these artifacts, but things just are going a little crazy right now. There's one big alliance and then just a little alliance, and then Gavin's kind of on his own. But the cool thing about him being on his own is that he has found out about this ability he has thanks to his desperation, because he sought out this one curse maker who is working with somebody else who's in the competition. And he managed to find a way to do stuff that has never happened before. And he even thought about trying to leave the competition when it happened, but he realized if he did it, the only other person who could take his place would be his little brother, who he was trying to keep out of it anyways. But I think that's it for my update. I really want to finish this book, but I do have a couple other things I need to probably do tonight. But I will update you when I finish this book. I'm having a great time with it. It has been quite a while since I last updated this particular vlog, but I did finish All of Us Villains a couple of days ago, and it was a 5-star rating for me. I love the way the book tied up. I am so excited and interested to read the second book. Honestly, when I finish my bookbind ban, I'm very much considering getting a copy of this book and then being prepared to buy a copy of the second book and the finishing, and buying a copy of the second book as soon as possible to read. Like I said, love the way this book tied up. I'm interested to see where Isabel and Alistair are going to go in the second book. I'm interested to see, because especially what happened at the end of this book, because they almost betray each other in a way. There's this big thing that comes back into Alistair's life, and so Isabel has to make this decision because it's the very end. And like the competition that they're in, the tournament, still has a couple more weeks in it. But they've kind of all started to believe what Bryony has said. And so they're kind of working through that. And so I'm just so interested and excited to see where this is going to go from here. Gavin seems like currently at the end of the book, like he's gonna have a little bit of trouble giving up the competition. It's definitely going to, I think, come down to his pride, just because he was going to be the first one in his family to make a difference. But like I said, love this book so much. I had a great time with it, and I'm excited to read the next book. Anyways, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I really appreciate it, and I will talk to you later. Bye.